Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, excellencies, colleagues, delegates present here. It's with great pleasure today that I welcome all of you this evening for this very special address by His Excellency Nicos Anastasiades, President of the Republic of Cyprus. Excellency, it's a pleasure welcoming you here in our midst. We have today commenced a day and a half of rather very intense deliberations in this trilateral forum between the EU, the US, and India. So it's very fitting that you join us this evening. Before you are, besides the other excellencies present here, a number of the experts, delegates, policymakers who joined us for these discussions today. So your special address on the future of the India-EU partnership in this century holds a special meaning for the forum that we have assembled. For our august audience, just a brief word. Excellency Anastasiades has had a distinguished career, both in uniform and as a member, he was a member of the National Guard, and then, of course, he's had such an illustrious career in politics. He was a founding member of the Youth of the Democratic Rally, in which organization he began, he learned the ropes as a district secretary, then went on to become as vice president and president since 1977. Since 1977, he has been president of the Democratic Rally, a position to which he was repeatedly re-elected in 1999, 2003, 2007, 2012. And he has also served as chairman of the Committee on Foreign Affairs, chairman of the Committee on Educational Affairs, chairman of the Inter-Parliamentary Committee on Foreign Affairs, a very wide, diverse experience of government and politics. And in February 2013, he was elected President of the Republic of Cyprus by winning the runoff presidential election. And here he is with us today, so welcome, sir. Sir, we are delighted that today you will be talking to us on the EU-India partnership in this century, a subject that this trilateral forum remains very deeply engaged with. For this forum that is gathered here is essentially a meeting of thinkers, policymakers, business leaders, and influential voices in our three regions of the world who seek to strengthen the engagement of the Atlantic community with India across a variety of sectors, and not just sectors, but domains, platforms, theaters of operations, you name it. Through its 12 earlier rounds, this forum, hosted by the German Marshall Fund and the Swedish government, has brought together ideators and voices carrying influence from our three geographies to help strengthen this partnership as a force for global stability. And that has been the aim of this forum. And at a time when a stable global order no longer seems something to be taken for granted or something which can be taken for a given, we as the Observer Research Foundation are delighted to be pitching in as a partner to help co-host this forum this year and the years hence. For this is a time when democratic politics across the world seems to be acquiring some hitherto unfamiliar flavors. Some strange smells and tastes seem to be emanating from across the world, and they're challenging us. Things are changing in ways that are set to impact the future of global governance and a whole host of other issues. At a time when the dominating impulse of national politics seems to irrevocably be turning inward, this rather ambitious edition seeks to cover a very vast expanse of issues, and that is natural. These range from the widely varying economic forecasts for our three regions. Then there is the whole future of consensus, collective action on issues of global trade, the commons of our shared environment, whither the world is headed, the oceans, space, what is going to be happening in those governance spaces. And of course, being housed in New Delhi, there's bound to be special interest in this forum on India. And we are seeing a lot of discussion on the economic policies of the present government, because there's also the sanguine hope of growth which this region attracts and which it holds out for the rest of the world. So yes, there's a lot of interest on that. So at a moment when nations are looking inward, the forum refocuses on connectivity, both in its old traditional forms as well as its new digital avatars, and the various formats that have already, in many ways, run ahead of themselves and inadvertently redrawn a fresh blueprint for a world integrated in ways that it has never been before in its entire history. So these are two diverse sets of movements we are seeing in the world. For this has today become a technology-led world that challenges all attempts to segment it and splinter it. Whether it is a flapping of a butterfly's wing in the Amazon or the image of a child foaming at the mouth in North Syria, these all have implications which are felt in Brussels, in New York, and across the world. And by doing this, it simultaneously creates new political pressures and new tensions across the world. So security and defense partnerships have emerged as a key element in our deliberations as we gather to collectively interrogate the future of globalization and try to guess at its emergent forms. Therefore, in this backdrop, your oration, Mr. President, on this partnership forms the heart of our forum for this particular year. Speaking of India and the EU themselves are caught up in a kind of new zeal which we see emerging, where we are keen to rediscover the merits of strong ties, and your visit to India at this juncture is set to add momentum to this trend. India has always had a tradition for strong collaboration with individual member states of the EU, but in recent years, ties with the EU itself have been on the ascendant. For India, the EU remains a union with which it shares a common neighborhood, both on land and in the maritime domain. This is a historical connect emanating from the old spice routes and our shared history of trade and investments. We reminisce about cultural traditions that bind us, that define us, and also, I would say, sometimes add an edge, I would say a fair amount of spice to our relationship. Seen from the perspective of New Delhi, it seems rather obvious that the Indian Ocean and the intervening spaces of Central Asia, the Middle East, and South Asia would require us to work together. That is why in the last decade, where there were some incidents of sporadic action in the Middle East, yes, New Delhi did feel left out, but that seems to be a kind of anomaly we should be putting behind us. The geographical fact remains that India and the EU share a common periphery in the Middle East, and our policies on intervention, migration, development, and reconstruction will always require close collaboration. Our recent contributions of the EU naval forces in counter-piracy and HADR demonstrate the EU's role in the Indian Ocean. European actors in the EU will need to design and implement their engagement with this ocean in close coordination with India and other actors in the region. Then there are the new domains of space, cyber, renewable energy, the entire tech domain, where our collaboration is going to be indispensable. Bilateral trade, investments, and joint research and development in the new frontiers of technology. It needs to be, I think, specially catalyzed at a time when the general mood across the world is approaching one of despondency. At such a time, our close endeavor to draw even closer is all the more necessary at a time when key actors in the world find it easier to advocate moving apart. So at times like this, the question is, can the EU and India be the moderating influence in a world that desperately needs moderation? In this, Mr. President, your address this evening will form an important part of this forum, and all gathered today look forward to hearing your views on this partnership. So I'm not going to take any more time. I'll step back and request you to take the floor.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, dear Sanjoy Joshi and Mr. Samir Saban, ladies and gentlemen, At the outset, allow me to express my immense pleasure and gratitude to be paying a state visit to India. India is a truly remarkable country, one with ancient roots successfully bearing modern fruits, a major international force in the 21st century. I want to thank the Director General and the Vice President of the Observer Research Foundation for providing me with the opportunity to address such a distinguished audience. It is an honor to participate at an event organized by a vibrant think tank, such as the Observer Research Foundation, which over the last 25 years, even more, has effectively narrated and is indeed part of authoring the spirit in India's new history. Cyprus and India are both Commonwealth countries that share a deep, strong friendship founded on a common adherence to democratic values, norms, and principles. India served as an inspiration for Cyprus' independence struggle for colonial British rule in the 1950s. My visit today to the Mahatma Memorial was both an honor and a deeply moving experience. Gandhi is an inspiration to the world and to Cyprus in particular, with whom he maintained a strong personal relationship. Cyprus' struggle continues today in a different form, and India continues to stand firmly and unequivocally by the government of Cyprus in its effort to safeguard the independence, sovereignty, and territorial integrity of the Republic of Cyprus following the events of 1974 and the illegal invasion by Turkey. India has been a long-standing, reliable ally in our efforts to reunify Cyprus and its people through a comprehensive settlement in a bizonal, bicommunal federation with a single sovereignty, a single international personality, and a single citizenship, in line with UN Security Council resolutions and EU law. The Cyprus problem is at the same time a European problem, and the EU is inevitably a major stakeholder since the settlement's provisions must be fully in line with EU law, values, and principles. India, a federal state itself, fully understands the importance of safeguarding the viability and functionability of the state, both in terms of its internal structure and decision-making process, but also in terms of ensuring that no third country has any right of interference or intervention. While we remain firmly committed to the ongoing negotiating effort, we look to friends and allies such as India to convey the message to our neighbors, especially to Turkey, that the status quo is unacceptable and that it needs to engage constructively and actively in the efforts underway. Peace in Cyprus will send a strong message to our fragile region and beyond, and will be to the benefit not only of Cyprus and its people, but also to Turkey, the EU, and the region. At the same time, it will establish Cyprus as an international paradigm of peaceful coexistence and prosperous collaboration between all its citizens, irrespective of their ethnic, culture, and religious characteristics. Distinguished friends, the unique, long-standing relationship between Cyprus and India is a reciprocal, mutually beneficial one. Cypriot is proud to be a special envoy of India within the EU, a bridge, if you want, and if you like, between India and the European Union. My presentation is entitled The EU-India Strategic Partnership in the 21st Century, a Cyprus Perspective. Cyprus' perspective that deeper partnership and integration serves to benefit the European Union and India is shaped not only by our special relationship with India, but by our firm belief that united we stand. This approach extends not only to how we do our foreign policy in our own region, the Eastern Mediterranean, and in our common home, the European Union, but also in how we perceive the foreign policy of the European Union with its friends and allies, one of the most important of whom is India. As the European Union High Representative Federica Mogherini said last week, India and the European Union are natural partners. This follows what Prime Minister Modi has stated, that with Europe, India has a shared vision of a strong partnership in India's development. Our mutual investment is already evident. The EU is India's largest trading partner, accounting for 13.5% of India's overall trade. Moreover, India is the EU's 9th largest partner, with value of EU exports to India amounting to 37.8 billion euros in 2016. These numbers alone constitute solid and convincing proof that the relationship between the EU and India is well beyond its infancy. It is now our task to see this relationship into full maturity. And the channels of actions are clear and open. Cyprus is an EU member state, and that makes the case for a stronger, deeper partnership between the EU and India as promoters and supporters of rules-based international approaches, the maintenance of an open economic system, the promotion of human rights, maritime security, and promotion of cooperative regional orders, just to name a few areas. Our theme today is timely. Developments in Europe, the United States, Asia, and elsewhere in the world call for the strategic partnerships that are well calibrated and designed so as to effectively address major challenges, including terrorism, cybersecurity, development issues, climate change, energy diversification, economic growth, and social policies. While I cannot address all of these major issues in depth today, I do want to highlight the key areas where our strategic partnership needs investment and cultivation to blossom in the coming years. Ladies and gentlemen, by pooling our resources together, by sharing knowledge and expertise in a host of social, economic, and security issues, we can achieve a great deal in our strategic partnership in the 21st century. This necessitates a clear vision and a more focused approach. Let us take the security, where undoubtedly the major challenges that Europe faces are very much the same that India must address. Attacks in Brussels, Istanbul, St. Petersburg, Dhaka, Paris, Egypt, Stockholm, London, and elsewhere, and in 2008 in Mumbai, are a tragic proof that we are facing a sophisticated global terrorist threat from which no country is immune. On the day I arrived in Mumbai, I paid my humble respects to the victims of the 2008 Mumbai terrorist attacks a stark reminder that the challenge is common. Within the EU, Cyprus is stepping up its efforts, calling for a strengthened international framework. Cyprus, and indeed the EU, stand with India as staunch supporters of a comprehensive Convention on International Terrorism. Like India, we are fully aware of the fact that terrorist networks are global and require a united response. It is in this context that we participate in the global coalition to counter ISIL and have provided means and facilities to counter terrorist organizations, for example, by providing, although we are a small country, but we have done so, by providing military assistance to the Lebanese armed forces and actively exchanging information and intelligence with partners. India's engagements with its neighbor and its valuable contribution to regional peace and stability signifies its crucial role in the region and, by extension, the world. In places like Afghanistan, India and the EU can forge closer cooperation for the benefit of the people of Afghanistan and of the cause, and for the cause of peace and stability in the region. Where possible, India and the EU must join forces to tackle the root causes of terrorism. In fact, Cyprus is a strong proponent of forging synergies with international and regional actors such as India in order to address common challenges. We have done so in the Eastern Mediterranean through trilateral cooperation mechanisms with Greece, Israel, Egypt, Lebanon, and Jordan. And we have excellent relations with the Palestinian authorities. The common denominator of this cooperation mechanism is shared values, such as respect for good neighborly relations and international law. Terrorism and political instability go hand in hand and lie at the heart of the challenges that both the EU and India face. Cyprus has been consistently making the case for tackling the root causes of terrorism, and this requires joining forces. In our region, in Syria, Iraq, and Libya, political instability has allowed radical organizations such as ISIL to fill in the vacuum in an absence of political leadership. The result has been chaos and an unprecedented flow of migration. Likewise, India faces significant migration flows from Afghanistan and has suffered from terrorism. It is clear that we have no choice but to work harder and closer together to counter these menaces, and the EU-India Joint Declaration on the fight against terrorism is an important step in that direction. Distinguished guests, in the areas of trade and investment, the potential is also immense. Cyprus' position is that it is high time to work towards advancing the EU-India negotiations on the free trade agreement, which will open new avenues of cooperation in the economic sector. I believe that there is now a new momentum in this regard, and we must ensure that the process moves forward. A free trade agreement, besides the obvious trade and economic benefits that would accrue, will provide the space for EU member states to maximize their bilateral engagement with India in all possible sectors of economic activity. the multipliers of the free trade agreement in the context of an ambitious EU-India strategic partners in the 21st century are enormous. The EU and its member states possesses tremendous expertise and know-how in the very areas where India wishes to take huge modernization leaps, and Prime Minister Modi has set an ambitious agenda. Make in India, clean India, digital India, smart cities, and other significant initiatives like the International Solar Alliance. All these initiatives are significantly reinforced when India and EU member states work closely together. The Republic of Cyprus has strongly supported the signing of the free trade agreement and will seize the opportunity to engage actively with India in sectors like renewable energy, most notably in solar energy and natural gas, in shipping and financial services, new applications of thermal energy in medical sciences and pharmaceuticals, in advanced university research and people-to-people contacts. In fact, one of the main pillars of my visit has been to strengthen cooperation in the economic field, and my delegation included over 60 businessmen who participated in Cyprus-India business forums in Mumbai and in New Delhi. I'm also particularly pleased that agreements in the field of merchant shipping, agriculture, aviation, education, and culture will be signed tomorrow, thus widening and strengthening our institutional framework of cooperation. Cyprus is eager to be part of this new and dynamic EU-India partnership and to contribute actively in focus of mutual interest, particularly in areas where Cyprus has expertise, including energy, renewable energy, hydrocarbon shipping, education, and tourism. Whilst at the same time, of course, we are expecting from our Indian partners their expertise and experience in technology, and which they are quite advanced, and we need to have such scientific help. Indeed, the significant discoveries of gas reserve, I'm coming back to what is happening in the Mediterranean area, in the exclusive economic zone of Cyprus open new horizons, not only for Cyprus, but also for the region, and particularly for the EU that is striving for energy diversification and new routes. The presence of energy giants such as ExxonMobil, Eni, Gogas, Total, Noble, Qatar Petroleum speaks volumes on the huge potential in the field of energy for Cyprus, but also for the wider region. Cyprus' discoveries of natural gas reserves provide opportunities for cooperation with third countries in the region. It is in this spirit that Cyprus has pursued effective collaboration with a number of neighboring countries, including, as I have already mentioned, Egypt, Israel, Lebanon, Jordan, with which it has signed exclusive economic zone agreements. State or private companies from India are welcome to explore opportunities for partnerships with the Republic of Cyprus or in collaboration with partner countries in the region. Ladies and gentlemen, we have glimpsed today only the tip of the iceberg, that is the potential for cooperation and synergies between the EU and India, and how Cyprus can add further value and depth to that relationship. As I said at the outset of my presentation, India is blessed with ancient roots and that continue to blossom in the contemporary era. The European Union-India strategic partnership is young but strong, and we are beginning to see the first fruits of our mutual labor. By continuing to nurture and cultivate our relationship, our descendants will look back on our efforts and reap what we have sown, a new culture born in the 21st century, designed to grow for centuries to come. Distinguished friends, Cyprus very much looks forward to the next EU-India summit, which will take place in New Delhi in October. It will set the stage for the formal decisions to be made at the highest level, with a view to elevating the ambition and scope of the strategic partnership in order to achieve the shared desired results. The ultimate objective is to ensure that we emerge as strong partners, building on our shared beliefs and interests. To this end, Cyprus will take every effort within the EU and in the context of its bilateral relations with India to make this a reality. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's now my honor and a privilege to propose a vote of thanks. Your oration this evening was very vast in its sweep, so it's very difficult to try and sum it up. But let me just raise or rather discuss one aspect of your presentation, which was deepening the partnership between liberal geographies such as EU, Cyprus, and India. And then the poser before all of us is, what does that really mean? And in your speech, you have actually answered that. The deepening partnership between liberal geographies must be based on 2 or 3 fundamental aspects. The first, of course, you have put forth is a more ambitious trade agenda, signing the FTA, deepening our economic integration. And I think unless the liberal order sees liberal geographies conduct deeper trade, we are going to see illiberal trade win. And I think this is that we keep complaining that our partnerships are not working. We need to start putting some meat on that particular relationship. The second aspect that you actually also pointed out was a more cohesive and common approach against terrorism, a more calibrated approach on security, regional security, especially in a time when assertiveness has become normal for certain actors. It is time that liberal countries recalibrate the global outlook and posture towards maintaining peace and security. And finally, sir, you have indicated that knowledge sharing is vital. If we are to grow together in a world of many challenges, the hierarchies of our relationships must be dismantled, and a more flat knowledge-sharing platform across various sectors that you listed become extremely important. With this, let me thank you on behalf of the German Marshall Fund, my colleagues at the Observer Research Foundation, and at the Swedish Embassy in Delhi and the Foreign Ministry in Stockholm. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us this evening. And please join me in applauding the President for his masterful oration.